Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we're going to take a look at the Caol Ila 18-year-old Unpeated. Dustin, bottled back in 2017 at natural cask strength, 59.8% ABV. Show you guys this one here. I've had another bottle, cracked this one recently. So I usually don't like to do them when they're this high, but you know.
We've both been through a bottle.
Yeah. So it's a whiskey we know well. So Caol Ila, Isla Distillery. One of my favorite distillers.
Absolutely.
The true workhorse of Isla.
And one that just keeps going up our list, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I continue to be impressed with some of the offerings from Caol Ila. This particular one is unpeated, though, so it is a little bit unique. Mm-hmm. I think this is the last time they did an annual unpeated release. I know there was the 15, this 18. Was there a 17?
Yeah, they did the Stitzel Reserve, which we reviewed.
Yes.
I believe that was 2013. Mm-hmm. They did two 15s. They did a 17. They did an 18. And they did this, which is this one. Mm-hmm. I think the last one they did was 2018, though, which was a 15-year.
Yeah,
I think that was the most recent. Then this one came before. Then it was, 17, then 15, then Stitzel, I think.
Yeah, so it's always, when a distillery does peat and non-peat, it's always interesting to kind of go, to kind of look at the differences. This particular one is aged in what they say on the labels, American Oak, which I would guess is just refilled bourbon. Or refill American Oak, as it says here on the label. But always an interesting one. Show you the color on this one.
Beautiful color, really, when you think about it. It's just rich.
Yeah, nice rich gold, I would say.
Yeah.
Rich gold.
And, it's part of the annual Diageo release, which means natural color.
Yeah, no, these are usually nice bottoms. Usually the Caol Ilas normally are. A lot of the specialty bottoms good 16, 22-year-old. They're usually, they rarely disappoint.
I really hope that we get a 21-year-old here next year for the 2022, so I guess this year, special release, because I think that those should finally be getting into the 20s. I'd love it.
Mm-hmm. I love old Caol Ila. That one's pretty good too. Anyway, this particular one, this comes off extremely light, fresh, clean.
Yeah, well, there is a
snappy.
There's enough fruit here where you could convince me there was a little sherry. I don't think there is, but there's enough here where if you told me, I'd go, okay, maybe they used a cask or two.
Yeah, zesty citrus fruit.
Yeah, I get like a salty putty, like almost a Play-Doh kind of thing with like some like cooking, baking doughs.
Definitely more salty than I would normally think Caol Ila.
This is brine forward for sure. I mean, this is definitely that salty brine right off the. I mean, it's a coastal whiskey, and again, they didn't use peat. Now that said, that doesn't mean there's not peat in this, because what you're going to probably expect is that these weren't first fill casks. The first fill may have had peated Caol Ila in it.
Possible, I guess. I tell you what, it just, knowing this distillery fairly well, this comes off extremely salt forward. Almost like saltwater taffy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there is a sweetness coming up now on it.
Yeah, a little bit of vanilla's coming through as well. Mm-hmm. And more so than I usually get on Caol Ila. I mean, this is actually a really nice, heavy vanilla. Mm-hmm. Maybe even French vanilla.
Yeah, probably from the cask, I would imagine.
I think they used, given the color, I'm betting some of that was first fill bourbon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's 18 years old, so, I mean, it's enough time to get some color from the cask, but, that's still a pretty rich color for a bourbon.
I've definitely seen some very reused casks that were older, that were much lighter, so this definitely has got some stuff going on here.
It held a good ABV, too. I won't say, you don't smell this high. It's a high ABV, but it doesn't come off this high.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, it's actually got a really nice nose given at 60%. Mm-hmm. Like, I know when I first opened that Stitzel I've got, which we both really liked for what it was, it was hot. It needed time. Sure. This one, we opened this pretty recently, and it's already easy to nose. Like, sometimes when I get a lot of alcohol and I'm really digging in, I'll start to need to, sneeze a little bit. This isn't doing that for me.
I tell you what, man, and the more and more I just kind of go back to it, the vanilla note picks up. It almost kind of segues into, like, a light banana note.
Yeah, you said that earlier.
But still, it's so clean. And the citrus note kind of follows it.
I get more of like banana cream pie, but like the cream portion. Sure. I don't really get the banana note.
I do. Yeah, it's a soft note. Yeah, it's a nice whiskey. It's a nice nose of whiskey.
It's a good balance of salty, savory, and sweet, but it's not that meaty savoriness that you might think of when you think of Caol Ila and you think of Southern Isle of Peat. Nothing meaty about this. It's all salty, baked goods, and then nice vanilla sweetness and a little bit of fruit.
It's solely on the palate initially, too. It instantly goes into black pepper. Stinging on the sides. The citrus kind of coming in now a little bit. Then here at the back, it's come a little bit of vanilla. Actually, a good wallop of vanilla now. Vanilla cream, maybe kind of on the finish. You got made with pepper fast, like as soon as you swallowed. What are you picking up?
So I'm more of an oak spice guy on this one. Up front, salty brininess for sure. Really nice. Even more of that. It's kind of reminding me of like a good Springbank, without it being instead of sugar cookies. This is more just regular like baking dough. That's kind of your baseline here, and I think that's really, actually, honestly, really nice oak is coming through on these. The finish is also really heavy oaked. Actually, I'm going to go really light on water here. Just having tested this before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're not a fan.
Yeah.
I mean, when you say oak, I guess it is definitely an oak presence to all those flavors I was initially saying that was coming on the palate as well. But
yeah, the mid to early finish is really heavy on the oak, and it's very nice, very clean, inviting, and I want to call it refreshing oak. You know how oak can be like really drying, and this is refreshingly like not super drying.
Snappy almost. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I said before, kind of with some of the fruit flavors. Yeah, it's a very lively whiskey for being 18 years old. It definitely hasn't, aged the flavors or the spark of it too much.
The alcohol, I will say, is much more prevalent right now.
Sure.
Now, that said, guys, we for the review, we just pour these and go. We had this earlier with about an hour and a half, 2 hours of letting it open up, and that heat really goes away. So definitely give this one some time in the bottle or in the glass.
Preferably in the glass.
Both. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, once you've got this open, let it sit for a few months. It'll definitely benefit from it.
For sure. You'll get a little more fruits.
Yeah, and again, that alcohol heat's going to bring it down a good notch.
Yeah, you weren't a fan of usually adding water to this whiskey. And I tell you why, because it makes it a little more tart. Like the more acidic notes come up in it.
It accentuates the oak notes that are here, and it brings out the bitterness, whereas before they were hidden by that vanilla caramel. Now, I will say, that very little drop I put here hasn't ruined it. I went very gentle and soft here.
Yeah, no. Initially, you get a lot more of that vanilla note, which there is an oak back note to that vanilla note for sure. But it does bring up the acidity with it just a little bit that's unpleasant.
Water is now giving me a note that I can see where you got the banana from. It's still, for me, it's not banana. It's almost like a vanilla wafer.
Sure.
Which I've always thought had a twinge of banana note.
Yeah. I agree with you on that.
Well, you can get now like a little bit of like almost like a burnt cracker or something. Little hint of smoke, but not a peated smoke. Yeah, it's nice.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice whiskey. It's almost becoming a bit more, the vanilla notes come a bit sugary. Yeah, you have to be careful with the water in this one, I will say.
Yeah.
Less is more, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the water's brought out more tannins. It's brought out a little bit more sourness and bitterness. It hasn't overpowered and made it an unpleasant whiskey at all. It's still very nice. But it's definitely it's brought up those notes that I didn't really notice or focus on the first time through. And now they're kind of coming through, and it's 18-year-old whiskey. It's not in that ultra-aged category.
Sure.
And that's kind of, I think, where its weakness is.
Yeah, so it still comes off a bit alcohol forward, even with the water. Getting a lot of the same notes. I said black pepper. Now it kind of goes, you say, any type of dark spice, maybe a dark cinnamon.
Okay, see.
And then kind of, you get a little sharpness of the acidity, on the side of the tongue, which I think is driven mainly by the ABV. But it's a little bit more acidity than there was before when we were drinking it neat. So, on the nose, it was different, but still is enjoyable with a few drops of water. Definitely on the palate, I would drink this neat, even at nearly 60% ABV.
Absolutely. On that one, yeah. Neat for sure. It's actually easier to drink neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oddly. It's less aggressive, at least on the citrus notes.
Yeah, it's not as biting.
No.
Same with the oak tannins, like the bitterness.
Mm-hmm. All right, so where are you as far as whiskey score on this one?
It's just a tough one. I am skewing my score a little bit because I've had this before, and I know how this improves the time. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give it an 87, Mike. A little high. I was going to say 86, but I know this one gets more vanilla and more creamy with time.
Yeah, I was going to go back for between 87 and 88. I agree. I've had a lot of enjoyment with this whiskey. I would have got a second bottle if I didn't like it. But I'm probably same place, 87
Yeah.
out of 100. Yeah, I mean, it's a good whiskey. It in your mind, you think Caol Ila, 18 years old, high ABV, specialty bottling, natural color. It looks like they use good casks, and you think like, oh, I'm going to be really impressed with it. And it's a good whiskey. It's just not a remember whiskey.
Well, for me, 87, I'm still going to remember this bottle. And keep in mind, Mike, this was $125.
It was good value.
Always. Incredible value.
Yeah, always. It was always a good value. And that is definitely a good point, Dustin. That played a big role into it because you're right. For the age statement, ABV, and everything else, and quality of whiskey, this was a good buy.
Yeah, I mean, this is, and I haven't seen any recently available, but I guarantee you there's still some of this sitting out there because I'm still finding like on UK websites and some European mainland websites, some of these unpeated Caol Ilas are still out there.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've ever seen this for more than say $130.
Yeah, I want to say I was looking at buying one of the 17s recently, which is an older release, just as well thought of. I think they're both seen as about the same. And yeah, maybe 140.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean they're not bad,
and that's with a lot of again that's with secondary pricing probably kicking in a little bit.
Yeah, it's weird. I guess I do prefer Caol Ila with peat to it.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean. I've often compared this to like Hazelburn. If you're talking about like Springbank, it would be like my last choice. You know what I mean? But it's better. I enjoy unpeated Caol Ila more than I enjoy any Hazelburn that I've had for the most part. But it's still kind of that same thing. You know what I mean? It's just it's interesting, but it's not its best foot forward.
Well, I mean, it's hard for me to comment because I've never had I would drink this over an 18-year-old standard bottling of Caol Ila, but it's 43%.
Yeah, it's an ABV difference. But let me put it different. We have that Caol Ila 25. It's a lower ABV. That's a pretty good whiskey to drink. It knows.
Yeah, but I mean, it's 25-year-old whiskey. This is 18. This is the oldest Caol Ila unpeated I've had.
For sure.
Like, I am excited if they get some 20-year-old unpeated Caol Ila, which I did a little research on this. 2013, they had something between 13 and 14-year-old stock of unpeated, unless they had some old like 40, 50-year-old stuff because they stopped for a number of years making unpeated. So 2013 is 9 years ago. 13 plus 9 means this year they potentially are going to have 21, 22, 23-year-olds, somewhere in that range, Caol Ila unpeated stock. I'm really hoping we get a 21-year-old or older unpeated Caol Ila this year.
Yeah, these are sometimes hit and miss, though, because that 15 really wasn't very good.
15 was super hot.
Yeah, but even with time, that 15 really didn't smooth out.
It stayed hot. No, you're right.
Yeah, this was much better. 'Cause I remember at first I was kind of hesitant about this till I had Keith or someone tried it with me, and I was like, oh, well, this is a different experience.
This one definitely improved. That. Well, and I'll say it. I mean, the 15, I've actually got a bottle of that sitting at home still because it's hot. But if you add that one, you actually can keep adding water because it has some sherry casks that start actually kind of coming out with water. It's still not a very good, but again, it's 15 years.
Yeah,
but it's 15 years old.
It's not very redeemable. Anyway, those are our thoughts on this Caol Ila 18. If you guys had a chance to try this one, I'd like to know what you guys think. And Dustin, until next time, what do we wish the folks?
Happy unpeated drinking.
See you next time.